Okay? They do make a line, but let's look at this again. I need everyone's attention on this. Hold on. So when I hear across from each other, what I think is something like this. That would be across from each other. What would we call those angles? Vertical angles. Okay, so we need to be careful with our language. Across from each other means those vertical angles. What is the term for beside each other when it comes to angles? They are adjacent angles. They are adjacent angles. They create a line, so they are in fact supplementary. Josh and Austin, do I need to go ahead and split you up today?
No, I was talking about the question.
Okay, but we're having a whole class discussion. I need y'all to focus on the whole class discussion, not your small discussion right now, okay? And that's something I need y'all to understand. When it is small group time, I want you talking as much as possible about the math. When it's whole group time to talk about it, I also want you actively talking about the math, but with the whole class. When you have those side conversations, it's going to distract other people, it's going to get us off task, it just doesn't help us learn well, all right? So, angles 1 and 3, or 3 and 4 are in fact supplementary. For those who said, by the way, does anyone know what I mean by indeterminable?
No.
It's not able, so not able to be determined, right? In, the prefix in means not, able, obviously able, so not able to determine. So that's where that comes from. That's okay. We good on the fact that they're not congruent or complementary. Any questions there? Good? Okay. Earlier, I don't remember who was saying it, but someone was saying something about 3 and 4 being both obtuse. Could they be obtuse?
Yes.
Can a linear pair be obtuse? Well, so let's look at it. Here's an example of an obtuse angle. How do we know? It goes over 90, but it's also less than 180. So here's another obtuse angle. And then I get, is it possible for two obtuse angles to be a linear pair, to be supplementary? To be supplementary, what do they have to add up to be? 180. If both angles, even if it was 91 and 91, if both angles are obtuse, what does it have to add up to be more than? 180. Okay, so I want y'all to see that. If both angles are obtuse, it is impossible for them to be supplementary. Because they have to add up to be 180. So one has to be more than 90 and one less than 90. One is obtuse, one is acute. We good with that idea? They could both be right. That is correct. I think Rose said that, and that is very true. All right, so angles 3 and 5. The majority of us are saying congruent, but we have a couple of people who thought that they are supplementary. Okay. So one of those who said supplementary, would you care to explain why? So we got, who was it? Kelsey, Rose, Bashar, Jalen, or Dee Dee? Dee Dee?
Okay.
So we're looking at 3 and 5 here. So why were you thinking they were supplementary?
See, I had it in my head a lot of something.
It slipped out. Okay, Kelsey, what were you thinking?
I don't know, I picked the wrong one.
You think you picked the wrong one?
I feel like I
Is that just because the majority of the class went with congruent?
No.
Yeah?
I mean, you should be right, even though the whole class picked that.
And that's what I'm saying, right? Like, you can be right even though the whole class picked something else. So I'm trying to figure out, why are you thinking that those are supplementary?
But I think, like, okay, so I don't know what it was, but I think it was like a day ago. It was like, on the other problem, it was like 2, and it was, I think it was 2 or some other number at the bottom. And I feel like it's like that, but like just different numbers.
Okay, maybe. Yeah. Kelsey?
I don't know.
You don't know? Bashar? Not sure?
I picked the wrong answer.
You put the wrong answer? What do you think it is? You think congruent? Okay, so we got a lot of people who thought congruent.
Mr. Keeney, excuse this interruption. We need Kaylin Edwards for checkout.
He's on his way. Okay? So, what was I saying? A lot of us say congruent. Would someone who said congruent care to share their response or why they said congruent?
Oh no.
The sides are not even equal.
I know why.
Hold on, raise your hand if you think you have a reason why. Austin?
Oh, crap. 3 and 5, they are alternate interiors and they're congruent.
Hold on, sorry. Some people are talking like Amari, so I know they couldn't have heard what you said. Can you say that one more time?
3 and 5 are alternate interiors.
Okay, so do we agree that 3 and 5 are alternate interior angles? Yes? They're on alternate sides of the transversal. Great language, right? Gotta be careful. It's not just the line, it is the transversal, that line cutting through the parallel lines.
Are they parallel?
That's a good question. What would I need to do to make sure that you know for sure?
The triangles.
The triangles.
Yeah, I
Okay.
asked about the
Oh,
triangles.
Yeah, that's my bad for not putting that on there earlier. But yeah, if I put those triangles in there, I'm definitely making them parallel. Okay, so yes. And then they're alternate interior angles. And what do we know about every alternate interior?
They're parallel.
Yeah, they're inside the parallel.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to what Kelsey said in a second. Yes, by being interior, they are inside the parallel lines. Yes, they're on alternate sides of the transversal. But I'm asking, what do we know about the relationship between those two angles? Kelsey, what did you say? They are congruent, right? Because remember, wasn't the whole question about whether they're congruent, supplementary, complementary, or indeterminable? Okay.
Wait,
Not able to be determined.
can they be supplementary with, can they be parallel but again supplementary?
So be careful. What can be parallel, ladies and gentlemen? Can angles be parallel? No. What can be parallel? Lines. Only lines can be parallel. And you need parallel lines in order to have these angle relationships.
Could you say that parallel lines or perpendicular lines are exactly the same?
No, they would be the exact opposite in a lot of ways. So what do we mean by perpendicular lines?
Oh, I don't even know. I never got
Okay, it's not just that they intersect. How do they intersect?
Evenly.
Not evenly.
In the mid.
Nope.
They got a right angle.
90 degrees.
Okay. Perpendicular lines intersect at what kind of angles?
Right angle.
Right angles, okay? So we need to be careful about that. And so that's a good question and a good discussion point. Always ask all the questions. I'm more than happy to cover them because we need to address that. Yeah, parallel lines, when do they intersect? Never.
Yeah.
Parallel lines will never intersect. But perpendicular lines intersect at a right angle. Very different. Okay? We good on angles 3 and 5? Ready to move forward? So good discussion so far. Angles 3 and 7. 3 and 7, man, I'm just like, I keep doing this too. 3 is here,
I feel like
7 is here.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It was something like that. Like, yeah, on the other hand, it was something like that.
Something like that?
Yeah.
So, majority of us on 3 and 7 said they are congruent. Who answered what? Who answered congruent? That's a good question. This is number 3.
Okay. I don't know what I said.
Alright. Anton, let's go with you. Okay? Why'd you say they're congruent? They're the same angle. What do you mean by that?
They're the same.
I don't know, okay?
Same point.
You can put.
Say that a little bit. Go.
Same side.
Same side?
Like, they both on the
They're
bottom.
the same angle.
Okay, so they're both at the bottom there?
And they both shape the same.
So what is the more mathematical term for those angles? They are
Never mind.
Equivalent.
Equivalent to scooping line.
that's congruent, but no, okay, look, they are so say it again. They're corresponding angles, right? If I were to take this intersection and I were to translate it down to here, wouldn't 3 be right on top of 7?
Yes.
So they are corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are congruent. Okay? So good job on that. But pay attention to that language, guys. One of the hardest parts about geometry a lot of time for a lot of students is really learning and understanding the vocabulary, because vocabulary is very important for geometry. If you don't understand corresponding angles, or you don't understand what it means to be congruent, geometry is very hard. But it doesn't have to be. Make sure you pay attention to that vocab. Woo! We are all over the place for angles 1 and 7.
I ain't even.
That's
But when it said.
Angles 1 and angle 7. So here, say that one more time, Terrence. Alternate and exterior. What are alternate exterior angles?
They equal, but they on the opposite side. They outside and opposite on each.
Okay, so they are outside of the what?
Transversal.
Outside thing.
There's only one transversal, so you can't be outside of the transversal.
Outside.
Outside of which lines?
The middle one.
They're outside the parallel lines, and they're on alternate sides of the transversal, but what I'm asking is, are they congruent, supplementary, complementary, or indeterminable?
Supplementary.
Okay, so I hear supplementary, I hear congruent,
I can say
and are we just kind of, some of us, I mean, a lot of us sound confident in what we're saying, but let's look at this a little bit. What do you know about angles 1 and 5? They are congruent because of what kind of angles?
Right, the right angle, right?
They're not right
Oh,
angles.
so they show not. Acute angle.
They both, I will say this, they are both acute angles, but there is a special type of relationship there that we just talked about. Corresponding angles, right? They are congruent because they are corresponding, correct?
Yes.
Hey, what's the symbol I can put in between here to show they are congruent? Remember, okay? So that would indicate they're congruent. So we already know angles 1 and 5 are congruent because they're corresponding, right? What do we know about angles 5 and 7?
They are also vertical.
Or no, vertical.
5 and 7, they are.
Okay? So pay attention, listen. Hey, look. Alternate interior means they're inside the parallel lines. Those are not both inside the parallel lines. But say it again, Matthew. They are vertical angles. And hey, what do we know about vertical angles? Not corresponding. They say it again, Rose? Congruent. Those vertical angles are congruent. So we're saying that angle 5 is congruent to angle 7. Hey, look. Pay attention to this. If angle 1 is congruent to angle 5, and angle 5 is congruent to angle 7,
That means angle 7 is congruent to angle 1.
there we go, right? That's an easy way to prove that, right? We've already looked at it yesterday, but I want you to notice that logic.
Yesterday.
Tuesday, thank you. Okay? So we already looked at it by measuring these things and mapping it and paying attention to that, but it's also true that I can use my other relationships to prove it. I know 1 and 5 are corresponding, so they are congruent. 5 and 7 are vertical, so they're congruent. So all 3 of these angles are congruent. We good with those ideas?
Yep.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Let's get back to our agenda. So I'll go ahead and tell you. Listen up. All right. So look, we have a 9 weeks test tomorrow. What? Throw up?
Yeah, tell him.
Hold up.
I don't know if I believe you.
Take a chance.
I don't want to see it either, but
my new shoes.
oh, your new shoes.
And then the forces till you take it back. How you finna throw a bitch on? What? That don't work.
I would just pull the trash can throw up in there.
Oh, don't throw up on that little girl, please. Please, sure.
Okay. So, as a quick heads up, so here's our agenda. We are looking at we're going to wrap up that discussion about corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, and by the way, instead of same side, what term have we been using? Not corresponding.
Consecutive.
Consecutive, thank you. That same side, we said was consecutive interior angles. We're going to do a quick little wrap up with that. And then the reason why you're in the groups that you are today is I went through, and those of y'all who submitted your review homework and submitted the midpoint distance and slope homework, I put groups together based on that. Some of us did not. And so I had to put groups together a little bit without knowing how some of us were doing with those things. And so I've put certain groups together to say, hey, let's work on this skill all together, okay? Some of the groups are focusing on equations. Some of the groups are focusing on midpoint, slope, and distance, and I'll tell you about that later. But that's so that I can have targeted discussions with small groups about the skills with which they might have some trouble tomorrow on the test. Okay? So, we're going to get to that in a second. Going from there,
Shut up, you need Terry.
please remind me very quickly, well, don't forget with the objectives, I think we're doing pretty well. I can name the pairs of angles created when a pair of lines are cut by a transversal. We pretty good with that?
Yep.
Okay? And determining how the angles are related. Supplementary, complementary, which that's supposed to be an E, not an I, it's fine. Congruent, etc. when the pairs of lines are cut by a transversal are parallel. Really quick question, I'll leave this up to you. I'm considering adding a section to the midterm because y'all seem to be good with that. Hold on. Would y'all like me to put some on there where you have to identify the pairs of angles?
Yes.
Like, I'm saying, yeah, the consecutive interior, the alternate interior. Do we feel comfortable identifying those angles?
Yeah.
Some of us.
Rick, look, I'll put it to a vote for the class. If the vast majority of us are feeling comfortable with it, that means the handful of others need to study.
Replace it with something hard.
Alright, raise your hands if you want those pairs of angles on there.
I don't
Hands
know.
up.
Wait, you said what?
Raise your hand if you want those angle names and angle relations on the test.
What's that gonna do us? That gonna benefit us?
Say yes.
Is that gonna benefit us?
I mean, I feel like y'all are doing well with it, so anything that you're doing well with should be on the test, I would think.
It's
Right?
easy, but I'm already slow.
Alright.
So, only what, 3 of us? Okay, raise your hands if you want those angle relationships on the test. Okay?
You got booty.
Raise your hands if you want the corresponding angles, consecutive interior, all that stuff on the test.
Wait, say that again.
Put your hand up.
I couldn't hear.
Alright, majority of us want it. We will have it on the test, okay? And I will say, like, having that on there will replace some things, so like, I won't say the hard stuff, but it will probably replace like 1 or 2 of the harder questions.
Fractions.
Okay. Alright.
Yeah. Decimals. Fractions.
Derek, can I do something for you?
It's good.
What?
You like this hard?
What?
It look like he lost a big friend.
If you need to come in and put your head down, do that. But you can't just stand at the door. And I have no clues you need because you're not opening
We
your
go to the
mouth.
nurse color.
He ain't feeling good though.
Yeah, he can go to the nurse. Yeah.
Bro, use your words. This is good. Until you can use your words, go sit down. I have no clue you just said. Huh? Say that one more time.
He said, can you go to the nurse?
See, I feel like you're playing it up to make it seem like you're worse than you are. Go grab a seat. I'll talk to you in a minute about it once we get started.
Are you listening to the wall?
Yeah, I already know.
We got something to learn today.
Sorry.
What I'm finding.
We're starting right here.
It's right there.
Alright. So, we already talked about, we already defined alternate interior angles and consecutive interior, correct?
Yep.
We did that yesterday. Or Tuesday, not yesterday. We did corresponding angles.
Yesterday.
I corrected myself to Tuesday already. Hey, by the way, let's get our sheet out so we can take notes. It's that one that Jalen has in his hand right there.
Oh, I got it.
Yes.
I think I got it.
On Tuesday?
On Tuesday.
Yes, you
You had
But
it from
you got
last
sure.
Friday.
Yeah, he gave me a white paper.
I gave it to you Tuesday. I did too, because you asked me then for it, and I got on to you for not having my stuff on Tuesday. Sorry, I'm pretty sure I did, and then you found it in your notebook, so you gave me back the other copy. Literally, that's what happened. That's not my fault. Sorry. Hold on to your stuff. Alright. So, have we filled all the way through alternate exterior? Or did we stop at corresponding?
No, we got the exterior. We got it.
We did all 4?
Yeah.
Okay, we did finish it. Okay, cool. Then we can move into, hold on really quickly. Hey, listen. Hey, stop. Okay, really quickly. So we did finish all the way through alternate exterior. I thought we didn't, but really quickly, I want to talk about this idea of a theorem. Did anyone write down the definition of a theorem on here? The definition of a theorem. We need to know what a theorem is. Okay, so A theorem is a mathematical concept that has been proven to be true. Okay? Before we looked at this theorem, or these theorems, there was one really famous theorem that y'all already knew. Do you know which one I'm referring to?
The Big Bang Theory.
No. The Big Bang Theory, that has not been proven. There's still debate about that one. But the Pythagorean theorem,
What that is?
a squared plus b squared was equal to c squared, right? That was a theorem that was proven using mathematical logic and other concepts, right? So we will have theorems throughout the year that we study. And so we need to know what a mathematical theorem is. It's a mathematical concept that has been proven to be true.
Okay.
Make sure you can identify your corresponding angles, your consecutive interior, your alternate interior, and alternate exterior tomorrow. Stuff like vertical angles will also be on the test. Okay? Make sure you know those concepts. One final quick note before we get started with you working your groups to prepare for the test tomorrow. I believe, if I am correct, that I sent out a solution set for your test last night, correct?
Why would it be
Okay.
real last night?
So, I sent out an email yesterday that has these solutions for every question on the test, and based on some of the things I saw students struggle with on the test, I added some extra details to help you study. I would go look at that PDF that I emailed to you last night to help you study for this test. Yes, sir.
When you send it to like my email, instead of school email,
Okay, then I need to update your email. Let's do that quickly once I get everybody started, okay? There was something else I was going to say. So I have another option as well. There are a whole bunch of us who never turned in the review homework. Okay, hold on. Well, I can send out solutions to everyone for that review homework, but obviously if I send out the solutions, will I accept anybody else's review homework that hasn't turned it in yet?
Don't send them out.
Okay, well hold on, here's the option. So I can either not send out the solutions, which will hurt those of y'all who did turn it in, or whatever you score on the 9 weeks exam could replace a 0 on that review homework.
Yeah.
That's easy.
You wanna go for that option?
I'll do it.
Okay. Well then don't do that. Hold on, but here's something I need y'all to clearly understand. Y'all are in high school. You need to start doing your homework. This is the last time I'm rescuing you. When you are on a period system, this right here would be halfway through the year. Tomorrow would be December for y'all. We are halfway through this class.
Hold up.
What you mean?
We are halfway through this class. This class is over in December. Okay? So stop and listen. That means you are halfway through this class. I am done rescuing you. You have got to get your homework done. Plainly put. You can turn stuff in late. And next Friday is the last day of the 9 weeks.
So you're saying